we're going to talk about conflict theory. This is one of the three theories in sociology to try to explain human behavior and why societies are the way they are. Conflict theory is the brainchild of Karl Marx. Yes, that Karl Marx, the one that all talks about communism. Karl Marx did get exiled because of his communist ideas, but his theory still can be applied today. And his theory is something that a lot of people take issue with because he really looked at society as only being two groups. You either were the rich people, the haves, the bourgeoisie, or you were the have-nots, the workers, the proletariat. And if you didn't fall into one of those two categories, he really didn't think you mattered too much in society. You didn't really contribute to what was going on. So that's one of the criticisms about conflict theory, is it really only takes two groups into account. That being said, he really believed that the problems in society, the troubles in society, came from capitalism, from an economic standpoint. And he believed that people who were wealthy, or in his day, he called them the owners or the means of production. So in Karl Marx's day, he was looking at people who were factory owners, for example. And then he looked at the other group, which were the workers, the factory workers, the proletariat. And he understood that there was a relationship for the two of them, that without the factory workers, the factory owners wouldn't make any money, which was the ultimate goal. But he looked at it as the factory workers would never, ever have the opportunities to be as successful as the factory owners, because the factory owners wanted to do everything they can to stay in power and to stay above people and to keep that status. Okay, so I'm going to go into an example here that you can actually see. That's kind of the idea of conflict theory, is the haves and the have-nots. And in order for society to become equal for everybody, according to Marx, there has to be a revolution. There has to be a coming together of those that don't have the power to rise up against those that do, in order to create what he wanted to see was a classless society where everybody had what they needed, everybody had equal opportunity, and everybody could be happy in that. It didn't happen, by the way. All right, so let's look at Amazon.com. All right. In Amazon.com, if you look at it from a conflict perspective, you have Jeff Bezos right here. He is the CEO and the originator of Amazon. So it's his company. He built it from the ground up, literally in his garage, and he is now the richest man in the world. He then, by being the owner, is, in Karl Marx's words, he's the bourgeoisie. Okay, and that's how you spell it. I hope I'm saying it right. I didn't take French, so just bear with me. So then you have the Amazon employee. The average Amazon employee works in a distribution center, and so they are picking orders, packing, shipping, driving them to where they need to be. And so when we look at conflict theory, the workers are going to be the proletariat. They're going to be the have-nots. Not that they're not getting paid, so please don't think that. They're getting paid, and they're getting paid pretty well by today's standards. However, we have to look at a couple other things when we look at salaries and compensation for labor and that sort of thing. So the Amazon employee is selling their labor, all right? They don't have other things to sell, so they're going to sell their labor, which is what any of us do when we go to work. And then the bourgeoisie, the factory owners, the company owners, are paying for that labor. They're paying us to do a job. So here's where things get interesting. The Amazon employee makes about $15 an hour. That's usually where they start, at least up in Indianapolis. they would start at $15 an hour, which that's not too shabby, especially if you're in Vincennes, Indiana. $15 an hour is really good. But when you get into bigger cities, $15 an hour, it barely makes the rent, okay? What does Jeff Bezos make an hour? You're going to be shocked. Okay, Amazon employee, $15 an hour. Jeff Bezos, $69,711,538 an hour. So you can see that there's quite a difference in what people get paid per hour at Amazon.com. Now, understand I'm taking the absolute extreme views here. If the person that's making $15 an hour wants to buy a house, buy a car, send their kids to college, any of those things, they're going to have a more difficult time doing that based on their salary than Mr. Bezos will. Mr. Bezos could send his kids anywhere and pay for anything, and it wouldn't even be a drop in the bucket for him. And so when we look at conflict theory, we're looking at this inequality of how the opportunities are presented based on where you are in society. So let me give you even a further look into this, because what Karl Marx then says is, because of this inequality, because the bourgeoisie has so much more advantage than everybody else, they're going to do everything they can to maintain that advantage. Okay, that's the important part. They're going to keep their power. They're going to keep their money. They're going to make sure that nobody comes and takes it away from them, because, at least in a capitalistic society, money gets you power. Now, here's what I mean. Jeff Bezos started Amazon.com in his garage. All right, good for him. But now, look what Amazon.com owns. Okay, they own the Echo, the Alexa stuff. They own Whole Foods Market. They own Amazon Kindle. They own Twitch. They own IMDb, Zappos, Audible, and Goodreads. And those are just a few of the companies that Amazon owns. Okay, well, and some of you are thinking, all right, good for him. You know, he's got the money. He can do what he wants with it. He can buy all that stuff. That's fine. And it is. But conflict theory says, because he is accumulating so much wealth and so much power over people, he has the ability to make or break a very large section of society. If he decides, as the CEO of all of these companies, that he's not going to pay his workers sick time, what's going to happen? Are the workers going to come to work sick? Yeah, some of them will. Are workers going to quit? Maybe, maybe not. Depends, because if the salary that is being offered is higher than other places in that area, they may think that it's worth it to make that little extra bit of money and put up with some of the other stuff. And so when we look at conflict theory and how does this work, here's the problem. The more that the bourgeoisie, the more that the bourgeoisie or the owners or the rich people accumulate more and more power, means the less and less power the proletariat has to make change. And so what'll happen is you'll see this bigger and bigger and bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots. And if you've paid attention in the last 6 months of 2020, what's going on in the world, you can see where conflict theory could explain some of the things that have happened, especially as CEOs, specifically Jeff Bezos, but some other people, have become trillionaires during a pandemic. You know, you got millions of people out of work, but other people are still making billions of dollars. And Karl Marx would be like, well, wait a minute. There's a problem here. And so what he would do is he would encourage the workers, the proletariat, to come together, rise up, have a revolution, have a mass strike or something, to then try to negotiate with the owners for better working conditions, better salary, better benefits, whatever it happens to be. It's not that the workers want to be the owner of the company necessarily. Some might, but for the most part, they'll just want better conditions. And if you're making $69 million an hour, you can probably afford to give some of those benefits to your employees, and it really won't hurt you that much. That's what Karl Marx would say. Okay. Capitalists would, their minds would just be exploding right now. That's not at all what they think is what should happen. Okay, so that's conflict theory, just sort of in a nutshell. It is, you know, it is what it is, and it's something that is easy to understand. You can see it playing out. Power struggles anywhere. Pretty much that's conflict theory. Okay. All right, I hope that helps. We also have videos on symbolic interactionism, which is one of the theories of sociology, as well as functionalism. So, see ya.